And now joining us via phone patch is lawyer and political commentator, Attorney Ferdinand Topacio. Good morning, Attorney Ferdy.
Attorney Karen, it's always a pleasure to be in the show.
Yes, and I was hoping that you would be here in person, but let's talk about some of the current issues that our country is facing. One of them is the case that you filed along with also members of Congress and a Citizens Crime Watch group on the budget. So there were graft and criminal cases that were filed, among them against House Speaker Martin Romualdez. Can you give us any updates on the status of this case?
The latest action that we did with respect to that complaint, which incidentally is also for violation of certain provisions of the revised penal code, specifically falsification of legislative documents, is that we have a request for the Ombudsman to impose preventive suspension on the respondents. The reason being that the respondents there are some of the most powerful people in this country, including the Speaker himself, who has full control over the personnel of the House of Representatives, who have custody of the records. He has full control and supervision over all employees of the House of Representatives, and we fear, therefore we allege in our motion, that he may be able to tamper with evidence or influence or intimidate witnesses. That is why there is a need for preventive suspension immediately.
Mm-hmm. And are you confident that this would be acted upon, considering that, as you mentioned, these are very powerful people and the Speaker is a cousin of the President?
We are very hopeful because although these are the most powerful people we are dealing with, that is precisely the mandate of the Ombudsman. That is why it was made by the framers of our Constitution in their infinite wisdom to make them independent of any agency. And the Ombudsman himself is answerable only in case of impeachment. And we are hopeful that notwithstanding this fact that we are dealing with influential people, that the Ombudsman will exercise his constitutional prerogative and be unfazed by the challenges that may lie ahead when dealing with people or personages of such a high office.
And going back to the case that you filed, can you give us a quick recap on the basis of the cases? So one, graft cases, and also criminal cases. Yes. So can you just give us an overview?
The overview is that we allege that in at least 12 different instances, there were unauthorized insertions or additions to the General Appropriations Bill during the time, between the time that it was approved by the bicameral, meaning both houses of Congress, and the time that it was registered as a enrolled bill. Because as approved by the Senate and the House, the budget contains certain provisions which provided for zero budget for certain matters. Mystically, between the time that it was approved and the time that it became an enrolled bill and transmitted to the President for his signature for it to become law, there were insertions to the tune of around more than 200 billion, which we think, well, with respect to that, to the amounts, we leave it to the question of that, the validity of that, we leave it to the existing or the pending case before the Supreme Court. But with respect to the criminal liability of those who were responsible for such insertions, we will have to take them into account. That is why we went to the office of the Ombudsman.
Okay. And from what I understand, the cases also include, among the respondents, some John Does and Jane Does. Why is that?
Because, of course, in the natural course of things, compañera, the respondent, the Speaker, the Chairman of the Appropriations Committee, the other respondents would not themselves do the insertion. That would be absurd. Of course, they will have to issue the order to their subordinates to make those insertions. And since we have no way of ascertaining their identities because we have been stonewalled by the House of Representatives, it took us a long time to get information even on a copy of the enrolled bill, a copy of the General Appropriations Bill, which is the same complaint aired by Senator Pimentel when he said that he was already a senator and yet he was in the dark as to what the technical working group was doing. So at this point, we have no way of ascertaining the identities. We are hopeful that the Ombudsman, with its vast powers of summoning people, issuing subpoenas, duces tecum, and ad testificandum, would be in the best position to know the identities of these personalities who were ordered by the respondents to make these insertions.
Okay. And it's clear that the basis for the case on the revised penal code is because of the alterations on public documents. But what about the graft cases? What are the basis for this?
Definitely, with the insertions in the hundreds of billions of pesos, the Filipino people were disadvantaged. They were caused damages because, as I've been saying, this is a crime not only against the revised penal code, but the Filipino people. These expenditures in the hundreds of billions were not approved by the representatives of the people in the Senate and in the House. And yet, a small group of people, a small cabal, took it upon themselves to arrogate the powers of the entire legislature by putting in these amounts, which, if you will notice, Ma'am Karen, are in soft projects, meaning to say these are the projects that have been complained of since time immemorial as susceptible of being tampered with in so many possible ways.
And what is the status of the cases that you filed? Has it gone forward with the preliminary investigation?
We are praying that progress be made because it's been almost a month, I believe, since we filed the case, and we are awaiting eagerly the action of the Ombudsman, as I'm sure the Filipino people are also awaiting for this action. They want to know the truth, and we are thankful for programs such as yours, compañera, which keep this issue alive because, sometimes we Filipinos are notorious for the so-called ningas kogon mentality. I hope that this issue will be sustained, not for anything else, not for any political effect as they are accusing us of, not for any diversionary tactic that they are falsely accusing us of, but for the interest of the people. These are taxpayers' money that we are dealing with. Money, hard-earned money that the Filipino people have paid to the government for the government to use for their benefit and in their service. And these are the funds that we fear are being wasted on useless projects.
And Attorney Ferdy, are you confident on the merits of this case?
I am very confident that we have a good case here because the facts are so clear. It cannot be denied. There are blanks as approved by both houses, and then these blanks suddenly had entries when they reached the president. And in fairness to the president, he may have been blinded by some people around him. I do not attribute any malice to the president with respect to this matter. I think the fault lies squarely within the House of Representatives, the House of Origin, where all appropriations bills emanate, and that was before they transmitted the same to Malacanang for it to become law under the process provided for in the Constitution.
Okay. Thank you so much, Attorney Ferdinand Topacio, and we'll certainly continue to get updates from you.
Yes, it's been my pleasure. Thank you very much. And to you and to all your listeners and viewers, God bless.
Thank you.